Hey everyone, Thyworm here. The Last Epoch main endgame system, the Monolith of Fate, is getting a huge overhaul. In this video I'll tell you all about it, as well as give my thoughts on the matter. We got an awful lot to talk about. I really hope you appreciate this video, and if you did, consider liking or subscribing. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside, and it really helps out. An extensive dev blog has been written about the new system, which will launch in 0.8.2, so let's dive in. First, the devs share their vision and philosophy for the Monolith of Fate. It's one of the main endgame systems, and currently the endgame system in early access next to the arena. And while Monolith already saw massive improvements since its early inception, I felt the current implementation got boring after a while. I made a video about it as well, which quite a few of you saw and agree with, and it was really time for a change and some more stuff to do in there. The current version has some great things like the boss encounters, the storylines and the challenge of the Empower timelines, but pretty much everything else was filler, repetitive, and because of that, boring. It's no surprise, but the devs seems to agree as well. Now, devs usually don't call their own content boring, but all the things I complained about in the last video on the Monolith are being reworked and addressed. Or well, most of them, but not everything, but we'll get to that. First, we're gonna go over the issues as identified by the developers themselves, and on the side note, I'll give some opinions on this as well. Number 1. Many people skipped the quest echoes. Why? Well, many people just wanted to farm the Monolith, and like I mentioned in my other video, the quest echoes are cool but just one time. After that, you know the story. The main problem with just farming the Monolith and stacking modifiers is that eventually you reach a point where modifiers become too punishing and you're fighting enemies that dodge, have 200% life, 200% damage and slow you down when they hit you. That's not challenging anymore, that's just plain annoying. Number 2. Progression wasn't really progression, but just a number. I mean, I agree, but to me this wasn't just a number, but overall Last Epoch didn't have anything really that incentivized you to keep playing. Empower timelines, I guess, but that's more of the same, but even more annoying because modifiers are stronger this time. There's more loot, sure, but what do you need loot for, right? There is no endgame in that sense. Everything else is exactly the same thing, however, in Empowered timelines. It's just a copy of what you already did. Number 3. Autopilot and boring objectives. Now, they don't say boring, once again. They say objectives from the earliest days of Last Epoch, but they're boring, guys. Objectives always spawn in the same place, and because levels aren't randomly generated, you know the maps by heart, which creates this autopilot playstyle. And number 4. A lack of midterm and endgame progression goals and rewards. This is similar to my remark at issue number 2. Last Epoch in its current state doesn't really have something worth playing for after beating the Monolith once. Some people say that you can't expect this because it's early access, but I fundamentally disagree with that claim. Last Epoch is on a mission, a self-proclaimed mission for that matter, to become the next great action RPG, and their endgame systems should be in line with that. The current state doesn't have this at all. Sure, it makes perfect sense given the development stage of the game, but you should still be able to provide criticism around this like I've done before. So, let's see if and how these issues are addressed. First, the progression. The Monolith of Fate moves from a linear system with only 1 or 2 options per timeline into a system with an ever-expanding web of choices, as they call it. A timeline isn't just 2 options anymore, but this web. Each node in the web is an echo, and each echo has specific modifiers and specific rewards, which are indicated per echo in the echo information. And what about quest echoes? Well, there will be a progress bar apparently that tells you how to get to and unlock the quest echoes, but it seems to boil down to just doing a bunch of regular echoes or nodes in the web, which is fine. I'm assuming this timeline stability that's mentioned in the screenshot has something to do with it and fills up the bar. You probably need a certain number to achieve a stable timeline, and then you can do the quest echo. Makes a lot of sense to me at least. If you've ever played Synthesis League in Path of Exile, then this system is rather familiar. That part never made it into the core PoE game, but I'm glad it made its way into Last Epoch. With this new timeline web node thing, you have a lot of control over the timelines. The nodes are randomly generated as well. I'm afraid the zones in the node are still static maps, but at least there should be a lot of options to choose from. If all goes well, this means you can skip the most annoying modifiers. You can target farm loot, as the reward type is clear, and I feel it's just the right amount of RNG, while having just the right amount of being deterministic. They nailed that balance, I feel, in their crafting system, simplistic as it may be at the moment, and I like what we're looking at here. I've touched on this twice now in this video alone, but the randomly generated levels are a bit of a pet peeve of mine. I understand how difficult it is, and I understand the advantages of static maps, especially if you want to keep creating these beautiful worlds, but there's a huge lack of variety, leading to this autopilot behavior. Levels won't be randomly generated for a while, and time will tell if this will be missed or not after the next update, but the devs are certainly working on the variety. And after reading the post, variety comes in two categories, if you will. There is variety in the way you progress your timelines, which I'll touch on first, and then there will be variety in the echoes themselves, the part that is currently the most boring in my opinion. So here's everything that changes with the different type of echoes available. They're adding 6 new echo types basically. Number 1. Patrolling rare echoes. This basically already exists. There are 4 patrolling rares in the Citadel sewers Imperial era which you need to kill to progress. At first you're chasing them because you don't know the patrol route, but pretty soon you realize they're all moving counterclockwise, meaning that if you move clockwise around the level you kill them in no time. I'm afraid that patrolling rares in the Monolith will be similar. I guess this change is fine to change it up a little bit, but I don't find this particularly impressive. Number 2. Arena echoes. You will basically play a little bit of arena, 12 to 18 waves, while doing the Monolith. You guys know my stance on the arena. I think it's very boring. I do see why something like this gets added, however, because it's rather simple to do. You already have a functional arena, so why not put it in the Monolith of Fate a little bit for variety? Well, because it's boring, that's why. But okay, we'll play a bit of arena if we have to. Number 3. Beacon echoes. I like this one a lot. It's an echo that doesn't impact the actual level, but it interacts with the various web nodes, the other echoes. Apparently, normally you can look 2 echoes ahead, meaning that you can probably see which echoes are available in a certain radius around your current echo. That makes sense, because you can use that information to plan your pathing. It gives you more control. This beacon lets you see further, by virtue of it being a beacon and all, making it even easier and more deterministic to plan ahead on how you want to tackle the timeline. I think this is excellent. Number 4. Vessel of Memory echo. Another echo that makes you interact with the web and all of the nodes. A vessel of memory is this object that you find within the echo. You can smash it and then you reset all the echoes that you previously completed, allowing you to run those echoes again if you want. This is definitely not immediately useful for everyone, but if you're going to be target farming or just farming in general certain nodes because you like the modifiers or you like the reward type, then this is once again excellent. You can first run a whole bunch of echoes, smash this vessel, and then run them again. It's great. Number 5. A Vessel of Chaos echoes. With knowledge of what the other vessel does, and with knowledge of what a Chaos Orb does, you can probably guess what this one is about. Instead of resetting completed echoes, it rerolls uncompleted echoes. The logic behind this is that you probably didn't complete those because you didn't like them. Smashed Chaos Vessel, reroll every echo you didn't like, and hopefully they turn into something you do enjoy. Number 6. Shade echoes, which trigger the Shade of Orobis, the boss we've all been waiting for, maybe. This boss seriously looks pretty sick though, and apart from probably being an amazing boss fight, a randomly generated boss fight by the way, as the shade comes in many forms, this echo also functions as a way to reset your timeline. Because quest echoes are now decoupled from the ever-expanding web of nodes, you need something to reset the timeline, at least if you want that to happen. The way to do this and either add or remove corruption in the process, which I'll get to later, is by fighting this epic boss. This is kept mostly a surprise, which I think is good. Alright, these are the different echoes that you can encounter. And now let's look at the variety within the regular echoes, the second category. What's new over here? And I feel this is important because the other echoes, and that's also stated, are going to be somewhat rare. So I feel the majority of echoes will still be similar to the echoes that we're doing at this very moment in the current Monolith of Fate. Number 1. Spires are reworked. They went from 3 to 10 and they do more stuff. They have more abilities. Honestly, I can't say I'm too excited about this, as I feel the whole spire idea just isn't very good. It's static by nature, but maybe the variety helps and these things are now actually challenging, who knows. And number 2, the forges are replaced by time gates. Now, they may be doing the exact same thing, which is just spawning a bunch of enemies, or time gates might actually have you travel through them or go somewhere interesting. I really hope that is the case. There is no information given, however. This could be super fun. Or it's just the same monster spawning but now with a visually different source that thematically makes a lot more sense. The latter would be fine, but I hope it is the time travel thing. And that's it. I'm not sure, guys. I'm not sure. But I'll get back to this because there's more coming, more changes, and I want to give you the whole picture before drawing my overall conclusion. There's one more topic to cover. Corruption. Corruption is basically a difficulty modifier. Corruption equals enemy health and damage, and in regular timelines it also equals zone level, which in turn equals better loot, because for example certain items like exalted tier 7 gear can only drop in zone level 90 and above. By completing maps which increase corruption, you can increase the zone levels and get that loot. I think this is a very good system because I think it's an optional thing. Looking at how the timelines have so many nodes, you can probably skip the entire corruption mechanic if you want, or get very few or little corruption. Or you can go full Void Slayer, get that corruption up and just corrupt the hell out of your timeline hunting for that loot. In empowered timelines, this gets even more interesting. Empowered timelines are already zone level 100, so having corruption increase zone level doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. Instead, it increases rarity. And not only that, it scales indefinitely. This provides an excellent endgame grind system, which will test the best of builds, and you will see creators make builds taking on 1000 corruption or maybe even more. It's going to be the new big dick stat basically. And that's good. A game should have something like this, and this seems a very solid, well-designed system. It's simplistic but thoughtful, and I like it a lot. We will end the video with the closing statement of the devs and then the closing statement of yours truly. The devs hope all these changes have a huge impact on the monolith. And I feel this is very important. They already teased that this system, this whole new ever-expanding web-driven timeline system, gives them the possibility to add more stuff to it later. Not only the web will be ever-expanding. Yes, I like that word. Also, of course, the additions from the devs can be ever-expanding. This is the perfect system for adding a new echo type in a new league, which are called cycles by the way. This is a very modular system, and as an IT architect I have developed a profound love for modular systems. You can easily add stuff, you can also easily remove stuff like the arena echoes, just a suggestion. And what do I think? I'm sure you're dying to know, right? Well, clearly no one has played this yet, so I'm just going off of this post. Once the patch hits, I will check this out extensively and fill you in, but at the moment I'm a little divided. I think there are some excellent changes in here, and if you've listened to me so far, I'm sure you noticed a few things I'm not so excited about. And let me start with that. I still feel, after reading all of this, that the gameplay inside the regular echoes, which I still believe to be the main core part of the gameplay loop you're in, as the other echoes are going to be very rare, is just not going to be that great. I still feel that the objectives you need to complete in these static maps are not sufficient and not varied enough to be compelling and enticing, because I feel this will get old still pretty fast. I don't think 10 spires are going to make a meaningful difference. I don't think patrolling rares will change anything. I think in terms of variety, despite all the different echoes, there's not enough when it comes down to actually playing the Monolith of Fate, or what people would maybe call the moment-to-moment gameplay. But then it's probably more fair to say the echo-to-echo gameplay. I think the echo variety in terms of how you play play the game while in an echo is still lacking, because I feel the various echoes just aren't cutting it, with patrolling rare arenas, more spires and a fourth visual overhaul. After reading all this, I don't see how the autopilot is actually going to be fixed, but I hope I'm wrong here. What I do love, however, is pretty much the design of the monolith and how you interact and play with the system. I think it's going to be super fun planning out your monolith timelines. I like the deterministic pathing, I like the different modifiers and target farming. I'm assuming there are more modifiers coming as well to the monolith, even though the post doesn't mention it at all. And despite not being enthusiastic about running individual regular echoes, I am very much looking forward to see how this system is going to play out in the long run. Of course, it's also not a finalized system and there can be much more added on top, maybe even in this patch. The pictures suggest maybe some special rewards as well, and it wouldn't be 11th hour games if they didn't leave us a little bit of a surprise in there somewhere. Overall, I would say the future of Last Epoch endgame is looking bright, and I can't wait to play patch 0.8.2 and I can't wait for this to be released. I'm curious about your thoughts as well, so leave them down below. That's it, see you soon, love you all, bye bye.